In an ancient world where magic intertwines with everyday life, Hiro is born to a pair of gifted wizards. This world, akin to a mythical version of Japan, is terrorized by Izat, a colossal and malevolent dragon capable of annihilating entire nations without resistance. In a desperate bid to end Izat's reign of terror, a courageous cohort of wizards, including Hiro's parents, orchestrate a risky gambit to trap the beast. They feign a sacrifice using Hiro's mother as bait, but their magic proves insufficient. During the chaos, Izat targets Hiro, prompting his father to cast a potent protective spell that not only shields Hiro, but mysteriously links him to the dragon through a shared mark. The dragon, in a frenzied rage, devastates the ritual site, leaving Hiro as the sole survivor. Safeguarded by his father's spell, adopted by Giru, a master swordsman and loyal follower of his parents, Hiro vows to avenge his family and destroy Izat. A decade later, Hiro arrives in a new town, scrutinized by guards before entry. As he explores, a small girl heralds the arrival of Lord Nanbuko, who lavishly disperses copper coins to the enthusiastic crowd from his chariot. Intrigued by the spectacle yet skeptical, Hiro's attention shifts when a young boy snatches a coin and flees, only to be reprimanded by his peers for accepting tainted generosity from Nanbuko, a notorious and corrupt figure. Spurred by curiosity about these children, Hiro notices one of them stealthily entering Nanbuko's chariot. He continues to the market, where an individual attempts to sell a crest claimed to have descended from the legendary hero who once conquered the dragon. Hiro, still haunted by his past and driven by his quest, finds himself pulled deeper into the complexities of this new environment, teeming with both hidden dangers and potential allies. Hiro takes an interest in it but notices that the boy who scolded the other fat boy for taking the coin snatched the crest away. He tries to run but is captured by the seller, who hands him over to this giant bodyguard. He tells him to punch the kid 3 times and to take the crest back. But before he can do so, Hiro takes out his sword and aims it at the giant man, telling him to let the kid go and pay twice as much money as the seller wanted. The seller happily lets the kid go and Hiro takes the kid into an alleyway and asks whether he is okay. The kid snaps at him and calls him a dumbass, as this was all his plan. He was just distracting the seller and his guard so that the rest of his gang could steal his entire money bag instead of this crappy crest. He then turns around and runs off into the alley, telling Hiro that he is stealing a crest for him as compensation for wasting his gang's time. Hiro is shocked to see that the kid was able to steal the crest from his hand, even without him noticing, and pursues him. He quietly enters the kid's hideout and surprises the kid by stealing the crest back from him. The kids surround him, telling him that he cannot escape, but Hiro very stupidly jumps out of the window backward, just for style points. He then starts running away while the kids chase him on top of the roofs and on the roads. He keeps running away from them just for fun, but suddenly, one of the kids slips from the rooftop and starts falling. Thankfully, however, Hiro is able to grab his hand at the last moment, saving his life. Before he can ask whether he is okay, however, another kid comes out of an alley and screams at the leader of the kids that the fatty who snuck into Nanbuko's chariot got caught, and Nanbuko has ordered his execution come dawn. In a tense turn of events, Hiro is drawn into a dramatic scene at the execution grounds where a small girl, brimming with magical prowess, is making a public spectacle. She accuses a boy, nicknamed Fatty, of sneaking into their chariot and attempting to steal a precious magical orb owned by Lord Nanbuko. Proclaiming that they will use the boy as an example, she warns the onlookers of dire consequences should anyone dare defy Lord Nanbuko. As the guards prepare for execution, Hiro, unable to contain his disdain for injustice, intervenes with a mix of bravado and mockery, challenging them to release the boy or face his wrath. The girl, amused by Hiro's boldness, mocks him and commands her guards to attack. Hiro, agile and skilled, evades their assaults with acrobatic finesse, disarming 2 guards with a swift kick and drawing his sword in a fluid motion. Despite a spell from the girl causing a massive explosion, Hiro dodges unscathed and lunges forward, engaging the guards in a furious melee. To his astonishment, all the guards remain unharmed even after his attacks. Realizing his sword's length spared them from injury, Hiro finds himself in a predicament as the guards regroup to encircle him once again. He attempts to de-escalate the situation, suggesting they resolve their dispute without violence. At that critical moment, Drew, Hiro's guardian and swordsmanship mentor, bursts onto the scene, calling out to Hiro and forcefully dispatching the guards. His arrival, alongside his mystical familiar, brings a new dynamic to the confrontation, altering the course of the event dramatically. The guards surround them, and the magic girl takes out the magical orb that belonged to Nambuko. Hiro is shocked to see that the magical orb they are talking about belongs to his father's staff, and he screams at her to give it back. The magic girl, however, draws on the powers of the orb and launches an insanely strong attack at them. But surprisingly, the attack gets deflected and lands on a mountain, destroying it. She looks at them in surprise, not knowing what happened, when suddenly the evil dragon starts emerging from the ground. Everyone starts running as the dragon emerges and locks his eyes on Hiro, and at the same time, the mark on his body starts hurting him. He is completely consumed by rage, and without thinking anything, he decides to jump and attack the dragon. The dragon is easily able to swat him down and knock Hiro out. Jiro quickly runs up to protect him and tries to shield him from any more attacks. All of the guards in the area start shooting crossbows in the direction of the dragon, without any care for Jiro or Hiro being in the way. The arrows have no effect on the dragon, but they start falling in the direction of Hiro, and Jiro tries his best to cover him with his body. But to everyone's surprise, the dragon deflects all the arrows coming towards them and starts destroying the city before disappearing just as suddenly as he came. Jiro quickly grabs Hiro and takes him near the kids' hideout, where he tells them Hiro's backstory while he sleeps. Suddenly, he wakes up from a bad dream and is still dazed from his encounter with the dragon. He asks Jiro where the dragon is. Jiro explains to him about the strange behavior of the dragon and how it ran away afterward. Hiro tells him that he is going to fight the dragon, but Jiro stops him. Hiro tells him to let him go, but Jiro has gotten a firm hold on him. The leader of the kids makes fun of Hiro for even thinking that he can defeat the dragon with his skills, and even Jiro tells him that it is a bad idea. Paul, their small beast friend, also agrees and tells him to find an alternate way to deal with the dragon. Hiro suddenly remembers his father's orb, which is in the hands of Nambuko right now. He decides that his first order of business is to get the orb from Nambuko and figure out how to draw its full power, so that he can be a step closer to defeating the evil dragon. He asks the leader of the kids about the location of Nambuko, and he replies that he has already left the city. He informs him that Nambuko won't stay long, as he is an arms dealer. He visits different countries and sells them weapons before turning them against each other so that they fight, which will require even more weapons. Whichever side pays him more ends up winning the war and gaining even more power, subsequently giving Nambuko even more power. Roaming the city streets, Hiro, Jiro, and Paul find themselves confronted by hunger, yet strapped for cash. Paul insists they must seek out an affordable eatery. Their quest proves difficult as several establishments turn them away, wary of Hiro's association with the dragon that once shielded him. Dejected and famished, they meander through the city's back alleys until an unexpected encounter changes their fortunes. A cat woman, perched above them, gracefully descends and invites them to follow her to a place promising ample food and drink. At the restaurant, they indulge in a hearty meal, during which the cat woman probes Hiro with questions about Zot and his origins, eventually guessing his identity as the son of the famed wizards who confronted the dragon. Jiro tenses, hand on sword, but the woman, introducing herself as Erin, assures them of her peaceful intentions before departing with a promise of future encounters. Post-lunch, an unexpected twist leaves Paul aghast as he receives a bill for their meal, having assumed their host owned the restaurant and their feast was complimentary. He had splurged on expensive dishes. Now financially strained, they can't afford lodging, leading them to seek refuge elsewhere. They end up at the home of the children Hiro had interacted with earlier. Initially, they face resistance from the leader of the children, but Fatty, the boy Hiro helped, vouches for them. Touched by this gesture, the leader allows them to stay for the night, offering a temporary respite from their predicament. The next morning, they are greeted with an amazing breakfast spread, cooked by Jiro himself. They all eat their fill before Jiro tells Hiro that they need to practice his swordsmanship, as even after 10 years, he is a very crappy swordsman. Jiro takes Hiro and Paul outside the city and shows Hiro a bunch of small slimes that are very weak monsters, but can be very fast and annoying. He tells them to kill them all and leaves Paul to look over him while he himself goes to do some other work in the city. Hiro tries persistently to kill the slimes, but he is unable to kill any of them, which is very embarrassing after his big talks. He keeps making excuses like his sword is too short or that the slimes are too small, but in all honesty, he is just a trash swordsman. He believes that if the target was a bit bigger, he would be able to deal with them very easily. Suddenly, he spots a giant sand dragon behind Paul and decides to attack it and sell his remains to the shop, which might give him a bunch of money. He jumps forward and hits the dragon, but it does no damage, and he is forced back. Suddenly, the dragon opens his mouth, and a young girl of the same age as Hiro comes out of it, and thanks the sand dragon. The dragon simply goes away, and the girl walks towards Hiro before hugging him and telling him to come with her. She introduces herself as Sharu and asks for his name. Hiro introduces himself and then asks if she has any business with him, to which she replies that she does not. He then asks her why she is here, to which she replies that from now on she will stay wherever Hiro is. Hiro is extremely confused by this situation, as a random girl just emerged from a dragon's mouth and is now telling him that she will stay with him forever. Shortly, Jiro arrives and asks Hiro about the girl, to which he and Paul explain the entire incident. He seems to be very apprehensive of her and even draws his sword, but Hiro tells him that she seems harmless. Jiro then advises him that they should just sneak by and not get involved in matters that don't concern them. Hiro looks around and spots Sharu crouching on the ground and picking pebbles, and Jiro meanwhile makes him sneak past her, and they start running away. Even when he is running away, he can't help but look back at her longingly. After they reach back to their hideout, Hiro seems to be lost in thought, and the kids make fun of him about this, claiming that Hiro is in love and all he needed was a girl to forget his vengeance, and now he is not going to deal with the dragon anymore. Hiro flicks out at them, tells them that the dragon takes priority for him no matter what, and starts eating his lunch. Hiro's concern for the girl, Sharu, emerges as he observes her solitude in the desert, collecting pebbles alone. He shares his feelings of sympathy with a local kid, who in response reveals that all the children in his group are orphans who manage to band together and forge a makeshift family. The kid suggests that Sharu to find companionship if she desires it. Just as Hiro processes this conversation, Sharu unexpectedly enters and confidently approaches him, declaring she has found him. Hiro then decides she should not be left outside alone and brings her indoors. The following day, Hiro continues his training in the desert with Sharu accompanying him, still struggling with the elusive slimes. Sharu, lacking social acumen and understanding of the world, prompts Hiro to worry about her ability to survive independently. However, his concern is abruptly interrupted by a menacing growl. Turning around, Hiro is confronted by a giant wolf perched atop a hill, glaring ominously at them. Reacting instinctively, he draws his sword and instructs Sharu to stay put. As the wolf attacks, Hiro attempts to defend himself but fails to land a successful blow, resulting in a painful injury to his shoulder. Surprisingly, the wolf then shifts its focus from Hiro to Sharu, advancing towards her with unknown intentions. He starts flailing his sword around trying to catch the wolf's attention, but the wolf isn't taking his eyes off Sharu and is slowly moving towards her. He decides to make one last-ditch effort to save her and run straight up to the wolf. The wolf then turns around and jumps on him, but thankfully he is able to slide beneath him and by luck hit the wolf right between the eyes with his sword, immediately killing it. He asks whether Sharu was okay, and she replies that she was fine but went into a state of trance, which happens sometimes. She looks at Hiro's bleeding soldier and puts her wand near it. Suddenly, the wound starts healing, and within a matter of seconds, it is completely healed. Hiro thanks her and then carries the wolf back to the market, where he is able to sell it for a decent bit of money. He starts walking back, but on the way, he spots a group of guards forcing a father away from his child so that they can take the father and force him to work in the mint shacks. Hiro is unable to stand and watch this injustice, or more realistically, he just wants to impress Sharu, but he goes up to the guards and tells them to unhand him immediately. The guards obviously don't listen to him and try to intimidate him, but Hiro the dumbass dodges one of their blows and acts smugly to impress Sharu, but immediately gets struck by the second spear in the head and gets knocked out, and Sharu doesn't do anything because he explicitly told her to just stand and watch. She just stands there and comforts the children while the guards drag Hiro away. Sometime later, the kid and Drew both arrive and ask Sharu what happened. Sharu explains everything to them, and then they decide to infiltrate the mansion where he is being kept captive to save him. Hiro, on the other hand, wakes up in a prison surrounded by a bunch of other men who seem to have lost all hope of escape. The father, who Hiro was trying to save, looks at him and apologizes for dragging him into the mess, as most of the people who go to work in the money shaft are never able to come out of it alive because of the terrible work conditions there. Hiro gets up and tries to inspire them that they should not lose hope so easily, and he will lead them all to freedom and safety. In the midst of their ongoing adventures, Hiro finds himself grappling with the consequences of his rash decisions and inadequate skills. His latest predicament unfolds in a prison where, out of desperation, he uses a falsely overpriced crest to attempt an escape by hammering it through the wall. This act, perceived as foolish by his fellow prisoners, underscores his impulsive nature. Fortunately for Hiro, his friends, far more capable, manage a successful rescue, liberating everyone and retreating to their hideout to regroup for future challenges. The narrative then shifts to the next day, where Jiro, recognizing the need for serious training, informs Hiro that he will accompany him, not Sharu, into the desert for training, a decision Hiro reluctantly accepts. This moment reveals Giru's intent to intensify Hiro's training regimen, distancing him from distractions and focusing on the essential skills he sorely lacks. Despite Hiro's annoyance, this change is designed to strip away his comfort and force him to face the harsh realities of his capabilities. Adding to the complexity, Hiro irresponsibly sends Sharu, who is naively unfamiliar with the world, into the city alone with a gold coin to explore on her own. This decision highlights a critical flaw in Hiro's judgment, underestimating the dangers of the city and overestimating Sharu's understanding of her surroundings. His casual dismissal of the risks involved in sending Sharu out alone, referring to the coin as a mere pretty pebble, is indicative of his lack of foresight and responsibility. As they reach the desert, Guru confronts Hiro with a brutal assessment of his swordsmanship and his grandiose but empty threats of avenging his parents and defeating the dragon. This confrontation is pivotal as it strips away any delusions Hiro might hold about his abilities. Giru's harsh critique serves as a stark reality check, aiming to provoke a significant shift in Hiro's attitude towards his training and personal growth. By directly challenging Hiro's ego and self-perception, Guru seeks to ignite a transformative realization in him that true competence and revenge require more than just bold words. They necessitate substantial personal effort and a realistic assessment of one's abilities. This moment of truth is designed to be a turning point for Hiro, pushing him to acknowledge his deficiencies and motivating him to genuinely strive for improvement. Giru's tough love approach is intended to break down Hiro's resistance and build him back up with the skills and mindset necessary to face the dragon and any other challenges he might encounter. Through this rigorous training and personal reckoning, Hiro is meant to evolve from a brash youth into a competent and reflective hero, capable of achieving the vengeance he seeks and fulfilling his destiny. He is weak and has no tenacity. If he was really so serious about killing the dragon, he would have trained every day on his own. Instead, Guru literally has to push him to go and train, and even after so many days, he is unable to kill even a single slime. He tells Hiro that he is nothing compared to his parents and he can never be enough to do anything if he keeps going the way he is going. This finally tilts him completely and Hiro rushes towards Guru like an idiot and gets stabbed to the ground like an idiot, getting knocked out and bleeding. Suddenly Paul and Tom emerge from behind a rock and rush up to Guru, asking him if he has lost his mind, as the injuries are very deep. Guru, however, picks him up without a word and tells them that they are going to the healing springs. He explains that he saw a quest that said that a squid monster is seen inside the healing springs and anyone who gets rid of it will receive 300 gold coins. That's why he chose a training area closer to the spring. Guru lays him down inside the water, and in no time his wounds heal completely. Guru tells them that he wanted to see whether Hiro had a strong resolve and whether he would attack him for real if Guru was standing in the way of revenge, but he never expected him to have such a strong resolve that he would try to go for the kill. Hiro then tells them that he thinks they are ready to move forward from this town and go after an Amu. Hiro is extremely happy listening to this and he starts planning the things that they will need for the journey, but he suddenly stops when he hears a big sound coming from the other end. They are all shocked to see a giant squid inside the spring alongside Magic Girl. The Magic Girl commands the squid to capture Hiro, but the squid goes for Sharu instead, and also grabs the Magic Girl. The squid starts destroying everything around them, and throws the Magic Girl away. Thankfully, Guru rushes to Sharu's rescue and chops the squid into 1,000 pieces, killing it. Hiro runs around, looking for Sharu, and he notices a shining thing inside the spring. He runs towards it to find the gold coin clutched inside an unconscious Sharu's hand. He picks her up, and is happy to see that she seems to be okay. They then try to go get the bounty for killing the squid, but it turns out the quest was fake, set up by the Magic Girl who wanted to lure Hiro to the spring. Regardless, though, they are able to get a lot of money after selling the squid meat, which is enough to buy a set of chainmail for everyone in the party. The next day, they start leaving and surprisingly Tom runs up to them and declares that he will be going with them. The rest of the kids are shocked as they don't know what to make of their boss suddenly ditching them. They cry and moan to try and stop Tom, but Tom is one heartless lad and ditches them nonetheless. On the way, they meet Eren again, perched up on the rock, and she tells them that she has the exact location of Nambuko and will only give it to them if they let her accompany them, and Hiro immediately agrees, happy to get another girl in the party. As their journey progresses, Hiro and his companions venture into the desert, a region known for its merciless conditions. While the others perceive the trek with trepidation, Hiro, naively enthusiastic, views it as an exciting adventure. They navigate challenging landscapes and precarious bridges until reaching a relatively serene spot with a few trees and a small stream, an ideal location for rest and replenishment. Jiro, ever the pragmatist, starts organizing their stopover. He suggests setting up camp nearby, taking advantage of the available water and potential food sources from the surrounding wildlife. The group settles in, momentarily comforted by the sheltering trees and the gentle murmur of the stream. However, the tranquility is abruptly shattered when Eren, alert and cautious, spots a giant bird swooping down at them with daunting speed. Narrowly missing Eren, the bird prepares for another strike. In a typical display of bravado, Hiro decides to confront the bird, seeing this as an opportunity to prove his worth, despite his evident lack of power and skill. Ignoring Jiro's warnings, he lunges at the bird only to be effortlessly knocked aside. Jiro, quick to react, leaps into action and manages to intimidate the bird, driving it away and safeguarding Hiro from further harm. With the immediate threat averted, Jiro proposes they move deeper into the forest to establish their camp. Despite some initial reluctance from the group, fearing the bird's return, Jiro convinces them that the dense forest would provide better protection, complicating any further attacks by the bird due to the restricted maneuverability among the trees. This episode not only underscores Hiro's impulsive nature, but also highlights Jiro's protective instincts and leadership, reinforcing his role as a mentor and guardian within the group. It serves as yet another lesson for Hiro about the realities of their perilous journey and his own limitations, pushing him to recognize the value of caution and strategy over reckless courage. They still seem to be a bit apprehensive, especially for the night, but Hiro the dumbass tries to raise their spirits by telling them that they don't have to worry as he will be staying on guard tonight, and nothing can harm them when he is there. I am pretty sure it made the others even more anxious to hear that the pathetic Hiro was going to guard them. They all agree with Jiro nonetheless. They all set up camp for the night, and Jiro and Hiro go on watch duty while Paul and Tom smoke the meat to preserve it, and Eren and Shero go to fetch some water. While smoking some meat, Paul reminds them that it has been some time since the two girls went to fetch water, and that maybe someone should go and check them out. Hiro, obviously, is a simp and he volunteers to go find them. He goes near the moonlit lake calling for Shero when he hears a beautiful melody, which turns out to be Eren playing her harp on a tree. She tells Hiro not to worry as Shero is on the other end playing with water. Hiro looks at her and asks her why she is here as she has nothing to gain from this expedition. Eren replies that she is a seller of information, and people give her a good price for the right information, and if she travels with him she will always have information about the movement of Nambuko, which will benefit both her and Hiro. The next day, they start traveling through the desert, where unbeknownst to them the bird is still following them, translating all the data to Nambuko, and the magic girl is back at their base. They, however, fail to notice it, and the magic girl takes advantage of it. They walk near the end where the desert connects with the sea, but suddenly a magic girl along with her troops and a couple of giant golems appear through a magic circle and straight up attack our gang. Jiro tells everyone to stick near him, but obviously, because of the absolute pain in his ass, Hiro tells him to take care of the rest while he deals with the magic girl. Jiro screams at him to stop, but he doesn't, and he engages the magic girl in a duel. Jiro tries to follow Hiro, but the giant bird tries to attack the rest, so he is forced to stand his ground. Hiro and the magic girl both run towards each other, and the magic girl uses a pretty powerful electrical magic blast, which again hits Hiro very easily and he falls to the ground screaming. Jiro looks at his pathetic performance and knows he will have to help him, so he tells the rest to follow him as closely as possible while he slays any enemy that dares come near him. Hiro, on the other hand, tries to get up. The magic girl uses another attack, which unleashes a bunch of ice shards at him. He tries to block them with his sword, but fails, and even his sword breaks. Jiro becomes desperate to save him and runs up one of the golems, stabbing his core and killing it in one blow. Paul decides that things are getting out of hand, so he uses a magical card that summons a girl through a magical chest. In a tense moment filled with urgency, Paul expresses a simple yet vital desire to ensure Sharu and Tom are taken to safety. Acting decisively, he throws them into a chest along with the girl, and with a hint of magic, the chest vanishes. Meanwhile, a dramatic scene unfolds with Hiro at its center. A magic-wielding girl approaches him, using him as bait to draw out Drew, who predictably rushes to his aid. However, swiftly capturing Drew with her dark magic, as she tortures Drew, she chillingly informs Hiro that his resistance is the cause of Jirai's suffering, presenting him with a harrowing ultimatum: surrender to her and Nambuko to save Drew, or resist and watch Drew die painfully. Faced with this grim choice, Hiro is tormented, caught between the imperative to avoid capture and the desperate need to save his mentor. As the magic girl intensifies her torment, both physically assaulting Hiro and psychologically pressuring him, a critical breaking point is reached. Hiro, driven by a surge of raw emotion and power, lashes out, his fury manifesting as a dark, purple aura that transforms his appearance, sharpening his nails into claw-like extensions. Empowered by this mysterious energy, Hiro reacts with unprecedented ferocity, demolishing the guards with mere strikes of his transformed hands, leaving the magic girl astonished and terrified. As she retreats, scrambling to retrieve her protective umbrella and conjure a magical barrier, Hiro prepares to confront her, driven by a newfound, uncontrollable force. This scene highlights a pivotal evolution in Hiro's character, revealing depths of strength and resilience previously unseen. His transformation under extreme duress signifies a potential turning point in his journey, where the lines between his innate abilities and the dark influence tied to his past encounters with the dragon begin to blur. Hiro finally wakes up and finds himself in the middle of nowhere. His whole body feels weak, and he is having trouble even speaking. Through the desert heat, he spots a caravan going by him, and to his surprise on the caravan he spots none other than Nambuko himself, alongside a regal-looking woman. At first, he thought that they were here to capture him, but it turns out that even Nambuko doesn't give a crap about him, which is very sad to be honest. He starts following the caravan instead of looking for Jiro, the person who almost died protecting his life. He hides behind a rock and sees that the caravan has formed a circle near a valley. They have surrounded two guys and an orc, who are all tied to metal chains. Nambuko looks at the woman and calls her queen, which makes Hiro think that the woman must be the queen of some country, which Nambuko is selling weapons to. He tells her that he has brought her to show her something that he has created specifically for her. He then calls the doctor, who is working on top of the cliff. He presses some buttons and a bunch of molten liquid falls on the orc and the humans. The queen backs off in disgust, and Hiro watches in horror as the steam fades. The humans have vanished from the chains, and the orc has been converted into a hot, gloopy mess. Suddenly, however, the goop starts moving and a hybrid freak monster erupts from it. The monster immediately breaks off from the chain and rushes towards the queen, who shouts in horror, but Nambuko tells her not to be scared, and immediately his guards make a circle around the monster and stab it from all sides, killing it in an instant. The queen seems to be very impressed, and Nambuko tells her that he can provide several hybrid monsters like these and she can use them in her army. After that, no one can defeat her or even think to deny her orders. The queen is delighted after hearing this, thanks Nambuko for his hard work, and reassures him that he will be paid for his troubles. They are just about to leave on the idiot Hiro, who just wants to play the hero of a story, walks from behind the rock towards them, giving them a moralistic speech about how it is wrong to use human lives like that. But he doesn't say anything about the life of the orc, which makes me suspect that he is secretly racist and probably gay. The queen asks Nambuko who this pathetic boy is, and Nambuko replies that he is just another piece of entertainment for her. Amid the chaos, Nambuko decides to confront Hiro personally, commanding his guards to stand down. Hiro, discovering that his sword was broken in a previous skirmish, boldly declares that he can defeat Nambuko with his bare hands. As the battle unfolds, Nambuko, armed and agile, easily parries Hiro's clumsy punches, ultimately subduing him with a swift blow and pointing his sword at Hiro's throat to declare the fight over. His guards then detain Hiro, dragging him away as Nambuko prepares for interrogation. Simultaneously, Paul and the others return from their magical chest escapade to a scene of destruction. They find remnants of Hiro's shattered sword and many fallen guards, a testament to the fierce battle that took place. Their immediate concern, however, turns to Drew, who they discover unconscious and gravely injured in the dirt. In a tender moment, Shara's touch miraculously revives him, his first concern being Hiro's safety, a reflection of his deep care and mentorship. Nambuko, meanwhile, secures Hiro at his camp, binding him to a chair in preparation for torture. This grim setup, complete with Nambuko's favorite torture instruments, underscores the severity of Hiro's predicament. Nambuko presents Hiro with a cruel ultimatum: endure torture or betray his secrets for freedom. This sequence of events heightens the stakes dramatically, showcasing the perilous path Hiro and his companions navigate. It also highlights the complex dynamics within their group. Loyalty, sacrifice, and the burdens of leadership weigh heavily on them as they confront their adversaries and their own limitations. The unfolding drama not only tests their resilience but also deepens the bonds that connect them, illustrating the profound and often painful ties that define their collective struggle. He asks Hiro about the dragon and what he knows about its sealing. Hiro, however, keeps his mouth shut. This is the first time he is getting attention from someone and he is enjoying it, so he wants to keep it going for some time. Nambuko tells him that he will have to slice him piece by piece if he doesn't start speaking, but Hiro acts tough and tells him to do his worst. By the time Nambuko reaches him, he starts pleading for mercy and telling Nambuko not to hurt him. Nambuko is about to torture him, but he hears commotion from outside as the queen has some complaints regarding the hospitality and he goes to deal with it, telling Hiro to chill where he is. Hiro quickly unties his legs and gets out the crest that he bought from the first city and starts using it to cut himself loose. But suddenly, the doctor enters the room. Hiro gets scared, thinking that the doctor will now torture him or tell on him. But even the doctor thinks that Hiro is so insignificant that he doesn't spare him anything more than a fleeting glance and starts using his device to find something. He then runs the device on Hiro, and it starts beeping. The doctor asks him whether he has seen Sarah, and Hiro replies yes before asking how the doctor knows about her. The doctor looks at him and replies that he created her in the first place. Hiro replies that he found him in the desert, and she started following him after hearing his heartbeat. The doctor checks his heartbeat and tells him that his heartbeat is different from others because he doesn't have his own original heart anymore. He refuses to explain anymore. Hiro is able to free himself and tries to strangle the doctor, but he is so weak that the doctor doesn't even notice him for a very long time, and as soon as he sees him, he simply throws him on the floor. Hiro accepts that he is a pathetic loser and basically cries to the doctor that he cares about Sarah and that if he stays here, she will get sad. The doctor really cares about Sarah, so he gives him a potion and tells him to drink it and focus on Sarah. He does so, and suddenly he starts floating in the air before suddenly falling from the sky, right near Sarah and the others, who are trying to figure out where he was captured. He tells them that they have to leave as soon as possible. Reunited in the relative safety of a cave, Hiro shares with his companions the harrowing events that transpired after their separation. He recounts his unexpected rescue by an old doctor, who seemed to have a profound connection to Sarah, releasing Hiro primarily out of concern for her. Sarah, noticing a familiar scent on Hiro, remarks that he smells like her daddy, a term she uses for the doctor as her creator. Hiro explains further, detailing a mysterious conversation he had with the doctor. He learned a shocking revelation. The heart beating within him is not truly his, it belongs to another, and possesses inhuman strength. This revelation visibly unsettles Jiro, prompting Hiro to inquire about his reaction. Jiro confesses that he has been covertly studying magical texts to understand a calamity that claimed the lives of Hiro's parents and to prepare for a potential future confrontation with a dragon. His research was also driven by a deep curiosity about how Hiro, then only a child, could survive such a catastrophic event that killed many powerful magicians and warriors. Jiro theorizes that Hiro's extraordinary survival may be linked to the very heart he possesses, the heart of the evil dragon Zod. This startling hypothesis, Jiro insists, is more than mere conjecture, urging Hiro to consider the implications seriously. Hiro, overwhelmed and incredulous, demands Jiro to stop, perceiving the idea as too outlandish and sensitive to be broached, even in jest. However, Jiro, solemn and earnest, presses Hiro to listen and consider the possibility, hinting at the profound and potentially dark truths underlying Hiro's miraculous survival and mysterious powers. This moment deepens the narrative's complexity, intertwining Hiro's personal destiny with the mythical lore of the world they inhabit. Jiro's revelation not only propels the plot forward by introducing new layers of intrigue and potential conflict, but also challenges Hiro's understanding of his identity and destiny, setting the stage for future revelations and struggles. He replies that he believes that when the disaster occurred and the dragon was going to kill Hiro, his father cast a very strong and very dark protection magic that protected Hiro, but at a cost. His heart got interchanged with the dragon's heart, and that is where he got the scar from. He tells them that this theory makes the most sense, especially after he noticed that when the dragon appeared in the last city, he protected Hiro from anything that might take his life. Hiro attacked him, but the dragon merely swatted him away, even though he could have very easily killed Hiro. The dragon's heart is sealed within Hiro's, and Hiro's heart is sealed within the dragon, giving them matching scars on their chests. And that was also the reason why Hiro suddenly felt an overwhelming boost in power when he was getting tortured, as all the anger in the dragon's heart turned into strength, and finally it burst, resulting in Hiro getting converted into a dragon form temporarily. Hiro gets very broody, and goes outside to brood alone like the emo boy he is. Jiro and Paul follow him, and tell him not to worry about things too much. Hiro, however, replies that if what Jiro says is the truth, then the dragon and Hiro are connected to each other, and if either of them dies, the other dies with him. This makes Hiro's vow to avenge his parents borderline impossible, because if he is even able to kill the dragon, he will die nonetheless. Paul steps up his game and comforts Hiro. He tells him that a lot of magic is reversible in nature, and there is a good chance that the magic that binds both him and the dragon together can be reversed, and that could be possible with a very strong magician who has a very strong magical item. Hiro the simpleton immediately starts feeling hopeful and jumps up, saying that all they have to do is get the aura that belonged to his father back from Nanbuko, hand it over to a very strong magician, and ask him to heal Hiro, and the job is done. Then he can kill Zod and take his revenge. They start traveling once again, and while traveling, they reach an abandoned village that seems to be ravaged by an army. They are very confused as to what happened in the village, as the wells were still working, and when an army attacked, they made sure that they dried up the wells so no one could come and settle down here again. The group's journey takes them to a village marked by desolation and terror, with claw marks scarred across buildings and a grim sight of deceased villagers strewn about. This place, steeped in tragedy, holds personal significance for Drew. It was once his home. As they traverse the haunted ruins, Jiro is haunted by memories, revealing his past to Hiro and the others. Jiro recounts that his father, once the village chief, had married a human woman, Jiro's mother. Despite the tensions this interracial union caused within their community, their happiness was short-lived as discontent brewed among some community members, leading to a violent coup. Both of Jiro's parents were captured and ultimately killed, but not before Drew managed to escape their fate by hiding. Orphaned, he fled the village, until eventually, Hiro's parents found him, brought him to their country, and embraced him as a comrade and part of their family, a gesture that left Drew with deep gratitude. Amidst their exploration, the group's uneasy peace is shattered when Tom, one of their companions, suddenly screams and bursts from a house, warning everyone of imminent danger. He reveals that the creature responsible for the carnage is still lurking nearby. As the monster emerges, Hiro, ever impulsive, recognizes it as the same type created by Nembo for the queen. Without a sword or any plan, Hiro charges at the monster, only to be effortlessly repelled. Once again, the responsibility falls on Drew to confront the threat while also protecting Hiro. Drew's protective instincts, Hiro's rashness, and the deep-seated bonds formed from shared histories and mutual rescues. These elements weave together, forming a tapestry of loyalty, courage, and the haunting pasts that continue to shape their present challenges and choices. He blocks the next attack of the monster, but he himself hasn't healed completely yet, and isn't at his full potential. Both the monster and Jura run at each other, and Drew swings his sword, but the monster dodges his blow and kicks him away. The monster then jumps at Hiro, but he dodges away, falling back. Tom screams at Hiro to transform into the temporary dragon form, and this huge idiot, who has no idea how he transformed in the first place, stands in front of the monster and starts trying to convert into a dragon. It seriously looks like he has constipation when he is doing that, and the monster doesn't seem to appreciate this view, so he attacks him once again. Thankfully though, Drew runs up from behind and slashes the monster into two, saving Hiro once again. At the same time, Hiro breathes heavily, knowing that the journey is getting dangerous and will keep getting dangerous. If he wants to survive and see the end of his saga, he needs to become stronger as fast as possible, because if anything happens to Jiro, his entire party will perish. That is the end of the movie. Thank you for watching.